All right. Thank you once again for being here at this incorrectly dated 17 February 2026 Werewolf Technical Steering Committee meeting. Um,
Actually, the
got
18th, but whatever. Potato,
is
potato.
oh no. Yes, thank you.
You're
Fixing it.
welcome.
18th year rename. I think it I usually make the agenda on the day that like in the morning and I was
Hmm.
ahead of schedule and making this yesterday. And so I made this and forgot to, it's all over the place. Got a couple things to talk about. My biggest thing is this TLSPR that I'm reviewing for Christian. And then Tim indicated that he's got some big news to share about the big refactor going on in the OpenHPC docs. And then mostly just to have something to talk about, but also to share with you guys. CIQ has kind of coincidentally received some feature requests for Werewolf from a couple different customers, and I wanted to bring those to the committee and see what you guys think of this and if my thoughts are match what, you know, match recommendations. This is a technical steering committee. Steer this technical decision. But anything else that we need to add to the discussion agenda before we move
Yeah,
on?
the pull request I had today.
Okay. This is
That's this
the
format.
format, right?
Yeah.
And let me go find that real quick. Um, there we go. And I'll have this pulled up. I don't think I do. Let me pull up the other one too, so that we have it. I mean, I'm going to be talking about it next, so I'll just have it here. Um, but anything else that we should add
Yeah.
to this?
I was wondering if you had any updates on the shared BOF or whatever we're doing for perk. And then I had intended also on coming to you guys with a draft, but I am not ready to present it to you guys yet. So we'll have to do that in the Slack channel over the next couple of weeks.
Um, with OpenHPC. So I have not heard anything. I believe it was, or I got notification that it was submitted, but I don't believe we've heard whether it was accepted or not.
Oh,
When is
okay. That'll
perk?
probably be some time. Oh, yeah. That's a good question. The exact date. Um,
July. So
mhm.
I don't know. Oh my.
Yeah, I think submissions are not. I think March 23rd or March 17th. March. It's a few weeks out still. That's why I wanted to,
Well, I
talk
think
to
the
you guys about
BOP.
it today. But
For you're talking about for having a perk thing just of our own.
exactly,
Okay.
I wanted your update, but I was also going to, yeah, share with you guys the draft for our just werewolf submission.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. So I, at long last, have been looking at this TLS pull request that Christian submitted. The um, the pull request is kind of in the same. I I'm going to try and describe what I think is the intent and what it's going for, and then correct me when I go wrong, Christian. But kind of in the same vein as the secure mode, requiring that the runtime overlay is only fetchable by a process running from a
Yeah,
root accessible
not
port.
that's the end goal. That's the TLS support is just the first step to it, that we only send the runtime overlay or image encrypted over the wire.
Right.
And
And so,
that's and that will enhance the security because if you are now securing it with it was called tags, how it's called now, it's the system, it's something we set in the BIOS, the asset tag.
The asset tag, yeah.
the asset tag. And with that, the asset tag is protected.
Great. Right, because we're sending the asset tag as part of our query parameter, so
Right.
it's on the network. So yeah,
So
th
it's
this
over the network, but with TLS, it's encrypted because the parameters are checked as the parameters are encrypted. I learned
right.
this when I.
So the PR adds configure commands to generate and then also export and import TLS certificate and private key, and also a configuration parameter for enabling TLS support and specifying the port that TLS should be serving over. Um, I have made some changes to the PR locally. I haven't pushed them into Christian's branch. Or I said to the PR. I have a branch locally
Yeah.
where I have made some changes. For example, there was um, the TLS variable wasn't being sent to the iPixie template, so you couldn't do it over iPixie, and
Yeah.
the werewolf certificate wasn't actually being sent out. I'm expecting, Christian, that you had an overlay change that didn't make it into the PR for that. Um,
Right.
uh, but just little things mostly.
Yeah, that
Um,
that
yeah, the biggest thing that I tried to correct here is that uh,
no, Dracut can't do that because Dracut can't do HTTPS.
so but it should still be able to get the runtime overlay when TLS is not enabled. And so that's what
Right.
I was trying to restore
Ah,
here.
okay,
It
yeah,
was
perhaps I'm removed that too much a bit.
Yeah, it was just disabled. So mostly little things. Something that I think was missed. So correct. This isn't the PR. This
Yeah.
is the original content right here. You have removed overlay runtime from the default server, from the non-encrypted server, when you have TLS enabled, and then you only serve that over HTTPS, right?
Yeah.
But there is also the ability to request the runtime overlay. And in fact, I think we usually request the runtime overlay at /provision/MAC address question stage equals runtime. And that was not being bifurcated between HTTP and HTTPS.
Hmm.
So I think that you want that there also. So I'm kind of using that as an excuse. I have never liked this at all. The fact that we have one big handler that does everything and then has like a big ifs branch in it. So
Totally agree with you.
so I am using this as an excuse to break these handlers or this handler function up into a handler for each URL, and then that'll make it my thought process is that that'll make it easier with the provision handler to also make that the runtime part of that be
Hmm.
HTTPS only. So that's the biggest thing left to do in my review, and then I would send that back over to Christian
Cool.
for consideration. And I want to review the docs. I haven't looked at the docs yet, but this is the last main code thing. Um, so it's going reasonably well. I like what's there. Um, just not done yet in time for this meeting, unfortunately. But I would still like to think that we can get this, and then maybe if I can go back out to what's in the milestone. The rest of these things are pretty small. So I think we should be able to do, if we can get TLS in, and then, I'd like to finish this up, and then a few of these others maybe, and we could still have a 2.6.6 at the end of the month. I think we would still be in a good shape for that. Um, but any questions or Christian feedback from you on the
No,
direction here?
sounds good.
Okay.
So then,
I real quick before we go to this one, I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts. Um, I was discussing this with Jason, and he kind of confronted me of whether I was um, running too much of that PR process. And how do you feel about this kind of sending patches for the PR versus just comments in the PR like GitHub system? Is this going okay? You happy with this?
it's,
It's fine.
it's
Okay. Tim, I see you've got a hand up.
Yeah, I had two comments in the chat. One, I thought Drucket could do
Oh,
HTTPS.
I also thought when I didn't made it I
Okay.
I thought it couldn't, because the main problem would always be that, and that convinced me. I had the same impression as you but then when I investigated it, I found out, yeah, that's com because the track could in it's hard to get the key inside Dracut, and so Dracut doesn't know to which host it's connecting, so it's always possible to have a man in the middle attack, and then TLS is useless anyway.
So
Gotcha.
the patch that I have right now does try to do the TLS thing, but I haven't actually run it yet. And
Okay.
it gets the key because we're already pulling the system overlay in order to see ignition configuration. And so since we're pulling the system overlay and extracting that into temp, we can the key is there also. And so I want to try and see if it can do the HTTPS pull of the runtime overlay as well, but I haven't actually deployed it on a system yet, so I don't know. Um,
The other one is while you're in the HTTP server, could you put in a path for static files? I think that would be extremely useful on a lot of sites.
there is a path for
25,
that already. Um,
but it's not
it's
documented.
Yeah, and I wouldn't remove it, and I'm with Christian. I would probably just document it. There is this overlay file thing. I need to find out exactly how that works. I know I
It
reviewed a PR for it a while
will
back, but
it it will render the overlay and send it over, and if you put a non-overlay file there, it will serve the non-overlay file.
so what do you have in mind, Tim? Are you imagining just like a var lib werewolf files that you can always pull from?
Yeah, my test case is I want to pull my Raspberry Pi system cannot serve things. Anyways, it would be very helpful to have that to be able to pull those files instead of having to set up a HTTP server locally.
Okay.
Sorry, I know what the use case was now. If we were going to get HTTP boot working with UEFI, I was
You'd
thinking
leave
that
it
would
there.
would be that's where you could store some of the assets. I've had a need of it a couple times, and I thought it'd be great if since it's already a server, just throw
Yeah.
files in there and
Yeah,
do it.
that's useful at so many, especially if you're just making up stuff. It's incredibly useful
Or
to
if
have
you have
just
script,
somewhere where you could send files out.
if you have scripts, they could pull data from there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, like you said, while I'm in there, I've written it down and I will keep it in mind and compare it to the overlay file thing. Because yeah, Christian has reminded me that that's a little bit different because that's more about like pulling a single file out of an overlay rather than a general purpose file server. But last night I literally fell asleep while I was doing this, so we'll see. I've got more time tomorrow morning, so we'll see how I get to that. Christian, tell us about
Yeah,
this
if you
PR.
can share, if I can share my screen.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Here we go.
Uh, what? New system window capture. Uh, I think it's that one. You see? Ah, yeah, you see it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
the whole normally the node list looks like this, and so I just now here I put it at else in. If you specify the format, so I just want to show it's really it's just some lines of code. I had it in another project and immediately had the idea that this might also be useful. So the main thing is you just get a node list and then expand the node list from the arguments, and then you just go over all of the node, and then for every node you render one template, and then it looks like this one. The only thing what's problematic here is how to get a new line in, So the only solution I found out was
Can't
something
see all the
like
way to the
this.
right, by the way. It's
Hmm?
your view is truncated. We can't see on the right of it.
What? My view is truncated.
Yeah,
Why's my
I can
view
see like curly brace dot on the right and nothing beyond that.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Curly.
Oh, okay.
There's not much more. And then I
Oh,
can.
okay, fair enough. I just assumed there was
Okay.
more
So you
to the
have
right of it.
to remove that one, and then you just get the notes. And if you can then here get, for example, just if it has a comment. Oh no. Yeah, that's the comment of every node. I think it's just useful for people like if they want to do some special stuff, and especially if we have someone who wants to go into the code. If you have someone from your company who wants to learn a bit more about our Valve code organization, we could replace this network and IPMI switches just with formats so that there are already some formats already there which we know which work. So that well, it's not a big code change, but I think we had some issues for that for people who wanted something like this so that you can specify the format. We have the JSON output, but then you have to order YAML out, but then you have to go to YAML output and grab it out. But if you just want to export to somewhere else, this might be useful for some people.
How
Yeah.
does it work with a network device? Like, can you get the default network device and its
Yeah, sure,
IP address?
like in a template.
Okay, yeah, sure. Right. It's just like that.
It's a,
Is it
it
using the same template formatter as the overlay template
no,
formatter?
no, not it's not using the same template formatter. It's just the I was today in the code. The main problem is with the normal template formatter, it has a lot of more information inside. I think we
Hmm.
could go over the normal template formatter at least with the same struct if we want
Right.
this. But then we have to populate it. It will now it gets a bit about performance. We would then for every node um, fill the whole struct, which is a
That's fair.
little bit. On
Yeah.
the other hand, you are running this in so powerful machines. It's completely.
Well, but it's fair that it doesn't make sense to populate like the all nodes argument for when you're formatting a
Yeah.
node. So
Then it doesn't populate the all nodes argument outside to do some changes. Where, for example, we had always for example, if you the ID function used the pointer of the node, and this, and because the template is not allowed to modify structures inside the Go data, you just can use a receiver without a template, without a pointer. It has so then I also had to do some other code changes, but I especially like the simplicity of it because
yeah,
it's much more simple.
cool.
Yeah, that's it. So check it, and then if it's okay for you, I would also, or you or I could add it also to the profile list, and but then we don't have any more outputs, huh? Well, this might be
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. If it's
If
not already in the 466 milestone, could you make sure that it is?
I will
Um,
put in the 466 milestone, and then I saw that I don't know how to do it. You had on the next topic you had one bullet point which was a more scriptable WW control set
yeah.
from YAML or something like this.
Yeah, let me start talking about these. So, well, actually, let's let Tim go
Oh,
first
sorry.
about what's
Yeah, yeah,
going on with
yeah. Sorry.
OpenHPC, and then I'll start talking about these feature requests.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot about that part.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick update on the documentation for OpenHPC. We were working on refactoring the LaTeX into Markdown. And so Claude and I have been spending the last week or so doing a huge refactor on it. It was not as short as I had thought, but Claude was a lot more helpful than I expected. So I got through most of it, and now I'm doing final testing. Warewulf, of course, came up cleanly and is working on it now. I'm working through some of the other provisioners. But the main idea, it should be able to allow folks to contribute a lot easier to it, and add additional distributions like Suzy. So if we do start supporting or bring, it will allow us to test that support within OpenHPC. So
Awesome. Thank you so much for working on that. I know I have wanted to, I maybe like 6 months ago went through the OpenHPC recipe for a Werewolf 4 cluster, and I had opinions that I would have liked to have contributed to it, but the barrier to entry for LaTeX and getting it into there was just enough friction to prevent me from doing it right then and there. So I'm excited
yeah,
to be able to do so.
all the files for all their all the provisioners, schedulers, operating systems are all randomly named into one single directory, and everything's a symlink tree out of that. So, and then it's in LaTeX with some customized macros that get expanded by Perl 4.
In the old world.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the new world, it's Markdown, Jenga templating, Jenga 2, and then Pandoc. And they're just assembled similar to Jenga 2 CLI. It was re-implemented to make it a little more inline, and it doesn't have an external dependency. So you just run a Python program that will take all the Markdown, put it together, render it through Jenga 2, and produce the one large Markdown file, which you can read, convert either to HTML or PDF, and it converts and it creates the recipe file there. So you can take that file and just run it on your local system with just the addition of a local variable setting, which is optional.
How does the testing infrastructure extract out the things that it runs as part of the integration tests, and then where are the actual tests that define what expected behavior should be out of that?
So just disclaimer, I have not seen behind the curtain on that one. It's there, the systems, I don't have access to the systems and I have not looked at that repo. There is a GitHub repo that does those types of things.
Okay.
Up until the provisioning, I'm familiar with after the provisioning. And so it'll provision the entire cluster within the recipe, and then it does those integration tests. And I'm not quite sure how that's done.
Okay.
But there is an additional repo that has all those tests in there.
Any other questions or comments for Tim on OpenHPC docs? All right. Is a long list of things here. I will intend to just kind of go through them one by one and accept comments and feedback and thoughts. So the first one is something we've discussed internally before, which is like what XCAT could do, make it possible to just discover nodes off of the network and bring those into Werewolf. We discussed this a little bit a couple meetings ago, that rather than have this be a dynamic thing that happens when the node boots, we would want the ability to provision, like to go walk the switch and add those nodes to Werewolf right now as like a wwctl command. The complication with that is that for SNMP to work, the node needs to be on, and you need to be able to see it on the network. So my current thought process, and I'm happy to talk about how I like the steps in between, but my current thought process is to have an iPXE configuration that turns all of the interfaces on and then waits for discovery, and then reboots after some period. But I'm more than happy to hear other recommendations. Worst case, we could have a discovery node image that it boots. Um, or we could go back to trying to provision it while the node is booting, in which case the interface will be on. But that's my current thought process, and I'm happy to hear advice.
Yeah, I don't know.
At some point, this will become a PR, and of course, there's room for comment there as well. But this is what we're thinking about right now. One other comment that the customer made was that We could do this with like DHCP options in some cases, but I think that only works if your switch is acting as a DHCP relay. And it can encode in the DHCP request what port it saw the request on. But if it's all on a flat network, I think that wouldn't work. Um, Next thing, and Christian, I think this was the one you were calling out, is a more
Yeah,
scriptable.
that's kind of the reverse thing I did.
Yeah.
I'm
So this is just being
still
able to
thinking if this is
set.
possible.
What was that?
If it's possible to have a kind of template and then say, okay, that's the data there where it belongs to.
Pull a big
What do you
chunk of
mean?
data in at one time instead of individual commands pulling in one node at a time.
So the actual impetus for this, as I understand it, is that we don't currently have a way to set resources.
Mhm.
You can set them with the editor, but because they're arbitrarily nested, there's not really a good way to represent it unless you just have people send you either a chunk of YAML like this or a chunk of JSON, which is even less friendly. And if we were going to support that for resources, I was thinking might as well just allow setting anything on a node. And then you could do that. You could say resources by just saying resources colon and then having a resource thing in there. Um, so that's the motive and the current plan on our side anyway. But Christian, I'm not clear. Is your comment an objection to this, or is your comment a just side comment about how it could be used?
Yeah, no, it's under rejection. It's kind of we need a more scriptable. The more scriptable input is nice. That's a nice thing to have, but I just don't know how to do this in a proper way.
So I was imagining, and I'll just kind of do an ugly thing right here. I was imagining we could do like, or I'll do profile just because. Uh, and then you could do like a here doc, right? And then you can have YAML in here.
Hmm.
Or is it two? I never do here docs, so I don't know. But something like this.
Yeah, that's saying it up.
I don't think there's anything particularly to express about. I mean, we've been talking about wanting extended attributes in Werewolf Node images for a while. We have a customer that is also asking for it. Um, I haven't reviewed the PR that's in flight for this, but what I have been expecting is that we would just do this by adding support for a tar-based image, and that it would only
Yeah.
work when you're using Dracut.
I think
That's
the more generally it's if I am running a file system on my node, or I need a file system on my node, and I have that same file system where I'm storing the node images, how do I make sure I capture all the capabilities of that file system when I build a node? Um, does that make sense? That obviously we have capabilities within the file system that we currently don't capture when we provision a node, but we want to make
yeah.
sure that we have that ability. Um,
But I think that's mostly just being lost because it's passing through CIO.
right. But let's say I want to do something crazy like overlay file system, and I want to be able to capture that and drop it on a node. Um, I mean, not going to do it, but you know, do we have the capability of doing that? And let's say if we did tar, would it actually be able to do all of that?
And you couldn't represent that. That's not even a file system, right? That's
Yeah.
two file systems that you've overlaid. And so to do that, you would do that by having two different images that you bring in, and then you would like configure FS tab to build the overlay. Um, at least that's the only thing that would make sense to me there. I don't think you could capture that overlay configuration as a single image, but we could certainly improve support for it.
Right. Well, no, I'm just talking about right the actual overlay FS, that
Yeah.
weird file system that I shouldn't say that. But um
Is Overlay FS the most recent one? Is there a newer one, or is that the good one? I forget now. Oh, I'm
I
thinking
don't know.
Merger FS.
Yeah.
I that's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Okay.
But
I
yeah.
just added the and moved that up a bit. If you want delete files in the overlay, that's already so in the standard container format, they're using internally tarboards, and they mark the files to delete with some. It's I think it's a pipe or something like this. And then when they unpack this with Podman or Aptano or something like, then they just delete that file, which is a pipe or something like that. You have to check how they exactly mark files, how they delete it.
Yeah.
So I think if we go and deliver our overlays also per tarball, we can also use the same logic to delete files because it's
Yeah.
the canonical way to do that.
I think this is what you're saying, right? That
Yeah,
OCI does this somehow, and we should
yeah.
find out how they do it.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought
they
about
know
that.
it. I checked it. It's something that they just mark the file special, and then yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
And if we are going with tarballs for the X address anyway, we can also use that one to delete files. So we just
Yeah.
have two things.
When I heard this feature request come in the first place, I thought, oh, we just need a way to say that you want files deleted. And so I was like, well, maybe we have the dub init overlay look at a resource that lists files to delete, and then and then that overlay could like do the delete in the init.d step, right? But since then, like literally this morning, I learned that that isn't even what they're after. Like they want to be able to make a change to an overlay, like a runtime overlay, and have that change farm out and remove files, um,
So what
that
they're
without
saying,
rebooting the node.
okay, so they're saying basically as you stack overlays, they want an overlay later in the stack to delete a file from an earlier overlay.
At the most extreme case, yes.
Okay.
So this idea that I had doesn't actually apply to the specific request anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, I
Not
like the
just
idea of looking into how OCI does it. That's good.
okay. Not just zeroing it out, which is easy.
Right.
But
Yeah.
okay.
Um, these were two requests that I am suggesting we combine into one. Um, so we obviously can enable and disable system D units by manually creating the symlinks in there. But I think that we would get a lot of value by just having a
Well,
system D overlay that
you can just run system control and tell it and I don't understand what
you can't do
I
that
guess
in an
it
overlay.
what's that?
Can't run system CTL enable in an overlay.
Oh, you want this as an overlay, not the image
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. So
Maybe just
we do that today by creating the symlink manually or
yeah.
deleting the symlink.
Would
But
it
Okay.
be just a solution to add this as a feature to www control that you have a comment like www control overlay enable or service enable, service disable, and this comment will just check the overlay you specified and create the symlinks in there.
hmm,
So this wouldn't break any of our processes, but still, this I think this would be convenient enough for most of the users.
that's not a bad idea because then you're not dependent on a single overlay to do all of it. You can
Right,
add these to
right.
an existing overlay.
And it's kind of it's 100 lines of code, I would say, or something like this.
Yeah.
And it's not so that it would not really yeah, it wouldn't change anything. So
There's a
we
part of me
know
that
for
doesn't
sure it doesn't break anything, but it would
yeah.
still enable the users to do that.
There's a part of me that doesn't like having like system D specific stuff in the commands, but we're so dependent on system D it doesn't change anything, so who cares? It's
Yeah.
I like it. All right.
Oh,
I'll
we
have to think
can
about it, but
also add for the we could also do an alias for init 5, and if it the alias init 5 is called, then it will create init 5 scripts.
yeah. Cool. And then kind of basically the same thing for one-shot services. we tell people to define one-shot services to do startup stuff, and especially I think with this recommendation, oh my, with this recommendation, it might make even more sense to just have an overlay subcommand that lets you define a one-shot service in that overlay.
Yeah. Subcommand. Also, that would easily point them out to one-shot services.
I like that.
Yeah.
That could be really good. Um, all right, this is a bigger thing that I genuinely do not know how I feel about it. Whether we should have etc werewolf
You gotta
node.conf.d
help
or
for me.
basically and so the way this was presented was a file per node and presumably a file per profile. Um, so I see a few different ways that this could be done. If you did a file per node and a file per profile, you still need a way to differentiate them. So maybe then we have a nodes.conf.d, not node.conf,
Now,
nodes. dot- And
couldn't you just read any file in the conf.d, make one big YAML file of it, then pass it through? And if the parsers, and then you could have one file per node if you want one file per node, and if you don't want file per node, you could name it whatever you
yeah,
want.
I think what you're kind of going towards is what my preference would be in this, that each file in nodes.conf.d is effectively a valid nodes.conf,
Right,
and then it just reads them all in,
right.
and maybe in like lexical order or something like
Yeah.
that. And at that point, whatever you end up with is your new canonical
It's
nodes.conf.
irrelevant
That
if
I
you
think is
read
the
them up in
cleanest thing.
lexical order or
Yeah.
not, because the whole thing itself must be a valid conf file again. And if you mess it up there, then you are messed up.
Well, but I'm not
So
saying just concatenate them. I'm saying you have a single data structure and you read one in, you read the next one in, you read the next one in. Each file has like a nodes colon and a profiles colon
Yeah.
in it.
It's nearly the
So,
would
same
it
one. Yeah.
yeah.
would it be easier? And this is actually going to lead into one of those other things that I want to bring in. Um, Proper YAML can include files, right? You can, so within a nodes conf, I could have my main conf file, and then I could have a conf.d with a whole bunch of subsections, and the main YAML file just says include this file, include this file, include this file. Um, and that's proper YAML. Um, but one of the other things, and right now we don't implement all these additional features that YAML supports. But one of the things I want to bring up is that I'm going to put in a ticket for it, but we need to replace YAML 3 because apparently the developer quit and it's no longer being developed. And so there's a whole different Go YAML now that people are migrating to, and it supports everything apparently. So we could actually have anchors now inside YAML so you can duplicate sections. Um,
there's two. I think my response to
yeah.
that is entirely this.
Yeah.
So, and this is a question even if you just have it. If you let's imagine that we have an etc werewolfnodes.conf.d that has all the files in it, or I think as you're
Mhm.
suggesting, Jeremy, that we just support someone having a nodes.conf that they've written that has a bunch of includes in it that includes files from
Mhm.
nodes.conf.d, and we didn't have to do anything. It just works because that's the way YAML works.
Right.
What do we do now when someone wants to make a change to how a node is configured?
I'm talking I am looking at this from the let's change our entire view of how we handle the file. Stop writing it. That when we need something, read the file. It can have anything you want in the nodes file. Look for what you need. Don't worry about anything else. When you change something, put it where it's supposed to go. And if it's change what's there if you need to. If it's missing, put it roughly where it's supposed to go, probably in the main file, but it's I again, this is my long-term thought here is being able to put all kinds of comments and tags and extra information into the nodes conf if I want to, and it never gets deleted or moved.
So I think that that's relatively straightforward to
Yeah.
consider in
It
a
it
monolithic nodes.conf. But if your node is defined in some arbitrary file that's three
yeah.
includes deep, like how do you know where to write it when you make a change?
Um, Instead of reading your YAML into a struct, you read it into a giant map, and then you look for your data. So you kind of always know where everything is. Like I said, it's a very big change from how we currently do things. I don't know. It's like I said, when you're looking for it, let's say you've gone in your map's actually mapped out from include to include. So you know where the data, if you read a value and you know exactly where it is, you can go back and you can change it. It's going to change in the original location.
Well,
Anyway, like I
my
said,
yeah.
it's more complicated. YAML 3 kind of supported this, but I looked into it. It was complicated. Apparently, the YAML replacement for Go now uh, seems like it looks a lot less complicated to do this.
Okay. Tim, share your
Uh,
opinions. Oh, sorry.
but I would definitely wait. Let's call this a 5.0 target, but the fact that Go YAML 3 is no longer in development indicates we probably should replace it.
All right, so my idea is nodes.conf.d puts you in expert mode, and you can drop in arbitrary files there, and it just can puts them together like we mentioned. And if upgrade sees the nodes.conf.d is populated, it just says, meh, you're on your own. You're in
Like
expert mode.
include you said upgrade, but meaning like www nodes set also.
Uh, what do you mean by set? I
That's
thought
no,
this was www control config upgrade was what you were
no,
talking
no.
about.
So I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. No, when I say updates, I mean like this. If we do www.ctl node profile set, what does it do if your
Oh,
node is in some other file? Because right now it's easy. We have our struct that it has a list of nodes and a list of profiles in it, and we emit that into nodes.conf. But
it
if you
throws up
read in from all over the place,
it throws up its hands and says you're in expert mode.
okay. So
Yeah,
You're
or
in
you just put
in
it inside the data which is not exported.
put it inside what?
Inside the struct and don't export it. And then you can, when you write it back, you can check from which file the node came from and then write it back there.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess my biggest problem with this is YAML was never intended to be multi-filed, right? They have a document break. You can put documents together into a big file, but YAML, a YAML document was never intended to get broken up into chunks.
So what's the use case for this again?
I haven't talked with them yet. This came
A
secondhand through
use
our
case
customer
for
support
this
team.
would be that you would have, for example, in OpenHPC an RPM package which just contains a profile, a YAML of a profile, and you just can drop in that profile. You could then
Yeah.
install, for example, if you install the InfiniBand package, the InfiniBand package would recommend or require this profile, and then automatically you can then configure InfiniBand specific profile. So with a overlay and a profile, and then you can have both in place, so that you can say, okay, if you yeah, for anything where you want a profile and want to have the settings in the profile and the configuration then is in the overlay. For example, you have okay, not a Slurm package. You would say, okay, the profile then holds I don't know what, the tags where you configure slurm.conf, where the overlay would then be slurm.conf, and so you have both in place at the same time. That's pretty useful.
Yeah, it makes more sense to me for profiles than for notes. That's a good point.
Yeah, that does make sense. The
Yeah.
whole how we're gonna do the set breaks my brain. Maybe it should be just read only. That might be a way to do it, right? You can't update things in
Uh,
nodes.conf.d.
That we just enable this for profiles and not for nodes and make them read-only.
All right. I think the
Yeah,
last two things are.
I'm not thrilled with it at all because, like I said, it's not YAML at that point. Yeah, right. The whole point of using YAML is you follow kind of the standard format. If you break it up,
Well,
I
it's
can't use
still
a.
YAML. We're not breaking a YAML document across multiple files. We would have
Hmm?
multiple YAML documents that it just imports and they override each other, is what I'm suggesting anyway. I don't know that I like that either. I'm just saying it is still
I
YAML. It's
don't
just
either. I mean,
block of
like I
them.
said, even the include function in YAML for another doc isn't even standard YAML. It's just some
Yeah.
people implemented
Someone has
it.
it. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. I think these last two things are easier. So the first is that the customer loved Werewolf Control overlay info and wants it to be more prominent, like the data from it. And for people that haven't seen this in a while, if we go to the docs, we have this section where all the man pages, but well, it also goes to the man pages, but where all the command help goes, and this makes this searchable, like this gets picked up by search engines. I have suggested that we have an overlay reference that runs info against all the overlays and just spits that out into the web
Let's do it.
docs,
Mhm.
so unless there are any objections, I think that is a good idea. Um, and then the last thing is just that we should have a system D resolve the overlay. I kind of thought we did already, but I don't see it. So that's a relatively minor
I
thing.
and I have a question, and I don't know if we have the ability to do it yet. But this has actually come up. I have two things, but this right on this one, good segue. Uh, Dynamic overlays such that I can have Slurm turn overlays on and off automatically, depending on who's actually getting the node. If that One of the things, yeah, depending on who gets node, I have certain features I may want to add, like this particular user group, when Slurm assigns them to the node, I want the image to go down. But if a different group gets the node, I may want to change the overlay configuration.
That's just only
Um,
meaningful right now if you are willing to reboot nodes in between, because the
yeah,
overlay can't unconfigure itself, right?
right. And that's the question of how, but since the node could get reprovisioned,
Yeah.
obviously, unless it's a runtime node, in which case we could get it to, especially if you implement the ability for things to automatically delete, um, it gives us some capability, but it's come up. I want to be able to change node configuration,
So you can
how a
you
node's
can
provisioned
actually
based on
do
who's
that
getting it.
now.
Hmm.
Because so you obviously you can change the overlays that are on a node, and if your Slurm
Yeah.
server is on the Werewolf server or whatever, you could do that. And now Werewolf client has a once or a one shot or something option, so you could have
Hmm.
Werewolf client run as part of your Slurm prologue, or whatever it's called, and make sure that Werewolf control updated the overlays before a job ran. You could do that.
Okay.
Um, it's obviously not a built-in thing, but yeah, as a
Yeah, I've been trying to
toolbox.
figure out how to get this to integrate a little bit better because this does come up. But also being able to change how a node's provisioned based on if I'm doing auto provisioning from Slurm.
Yeah. And that you should be able to do. Like
Yeah.
the main thing is maybe the best way to do that would be through the API. You can change the overlays that are associated with a node through the REST API. And so you could do it that way.
Okay, that makes sense. I'll have to try it. Um, oh, and then the other most interesting thing that I discovered because we've been doing Ubuntu, um, and Ubuntu stateful, and Ubuntu does not support Dracket at
Mm,
all. They're supposedly moving to it in version 26, but 22 and 24 don't support it. It's
okay.
there, but it doesn't work, especially at least with Werewolf.
Interesting.
Mm,
Yeah.
I have it
Ian,
working.
yeah, I was gonna say I thought Ian has it working.
I have it working just fine.
Really?
Yeah, 24 works just fine.
Oh, I did the install on 22 and it choked hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
no,
on
Um,
22 it wouldn't.
yeah. The 22 was far from done.
Okay.
But yeah, 24 and 2410, they started to really put effort into it because yes, 26 it's supposed to be the default.
Yes, they're getting away from that webinet.
Mhm.
But yeah, it wasn't a matter it didn't work. It's that I couldn't find any of the packages that it wanted. They provided basic Dre cut, but in order to actually get it to do what I wanted to, the packages were missing.
Let me see.
But so instead, uh, I have a very short, fast script now that just dumps the entire whatever's in memory, writes it to the hard drive and reboots.
Right.
So now I don't even want Dre cut anymore because you know how I am about single stage booting. Um, so anyway, that's what I was gonna note. At some point, I was thinking if I clean up the script, I'll actually put it up as a uh, an add-on if people want it.
Cool.
Yeah,
What I
but
hear,
that way,
Ian, is that you've got a downstream uh, deb package user ready to go if you have that deb package.
Yeah, I gotta go
yeah.
tweak them. I have to still test 465. And I did make a package for the Werewolf story cut stuff to get inserted, but I gotta rebuild everything.
For 24.
I'm double checking to see if it was for sure it was 24 or 2410.
Okay.
If it's not in
Gentlemen,
Git, it
oh
didn't happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
gentlemen, we're at time.
Well,
And
okay.
everyone, yeah, or so we need to finish this up. Do we still checking on it? Yes, Ian or Jeremy. It sounded
You
like you
you can
were
go ahead. I
okay.
can do that offline.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I'd like to, yeah, I'd like to get that because that would be useful.
excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here and for participating. I'll look forward to seeing everyone. I think we have another one in 2 weeks. I'll check. Yes, the next one is scheduled for March 4, so I'll hope to see you all there.
Here, everybody.
Ciao.